What's up guys, we're back with another EDH gameplay video, and I would just like to ask before we get into the game, would you like, comment, and subscribe? It really helps the channel out. Also, we are looking for new decks to play, so if you would go down in the comments and tell us decks you want to see face each other, that would be awesome too. Let's get straight into this game. Tonight Ron is piloting Mogis Gotta Slaughter, a red-black stacks deck. He opened with By Force Feed the Swarm, Tybalt's Trickery, Impish Mischief, Planar Void, a Swamp, and a Marsh Flats. Today, Nash is piloting Yeva Nature's Herald, a mono green control deck. He opened with a Glade Muse, Seedborn Muse, Beast Whisperer, Survival of the Fittest, Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, and a Forest. This week, Ryan is piloting Sidisi Adnos, a mono black combo deck. He opened with Lake of the Dead, 2 Swamps, Phyrexian Walker, Blood Pet, and Voltaic Key. Jordan's bringing back a classic, his Tana Arden deck. This is a Naya Voltron shell. He opened with a Skull Clamp, Fighter Class, Birds of Paradise, Mountain, Plains, Prismatic Vista, and a Command Tower. Ron won the die roll and starts things off. He opens his turn with a Marsh Flats, cracking it to get a Badlands, and then casting Planar Void. Nash then starts his turn off by playing an Ancient Tomb as his land for turn, and passes. Ryan starts his turn off with a Swamp, and then casts Memnite. He then follows this up with a Blood Pet and passes. Jordan opens with the classic Command Tower into Birds. On Ron's turn, he plays a Swamp as land for turn and follows this up with a Mind Crank. On Nash's turn, he plays a Forest and then passes. Ryan starts his turn off by floating a black mana with his Swamp. He then plays Lake of the Dead, sacrificing his tapped Swamp. He then floats another black and casts Voltaic Key, followed by a Chromatic Star, and then casts his Phyrexian Walker. Jordan starts his turn off by playing his Bountiful Promenade. He then taps down in order to cast Arden. Ron starts his turn off by playing his Polluted Delta, which he immediately cracks in order to get a Blood Crypt, which he shocks into play. Nash plays a Forest as his land for turn. He then passes. On Ryan's turn, he starts things off by playing a Swamp. He floats a black and then activates his Lake of the Dead, sacrificing a Swamp in order to make 4 black. He uses all 5 mana in order to cast Sidisi Undead Vizier. With no responses to the exploit trigger, Phyrexian Walker is sacrificed. With no response to the tutor trigger, Ryan tutors for a card to hand. Ryan then moves to combat and attacks Ron for 2. On Jordan's turn, he plays his Plains as his land for turn. He then taps out in order to cast Tana the Bloodsower. On Ron's turn, he plays a Cursed Totem and passes. On EOT, Nash taps out, taking 2 damage, milling 2 cards, in order to cast Yeva, Nature's Herald. Nash plays Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx as his land for turn, and passes. Ryan plays a Swamp, floats a black, activates Lake of the Dead, sacrifices a Swamp, has a total of 5 black mana in pool, casts Adnos. With no responses, he begins flipping cards from the top of his deck until he has taken 37 damage, at which point he decides to stop. Then, because he took 37 damage, he mills 37 cards from the Mind Crank. Ryan then plays Chromox, exiling Grim Tutor. He follows this up with a Dark Ritual and a Mana Crypt. He spends 4 mana in order to play Aether Flux, leaving him 1 black in pool. Ryan then casts an Urza Bauble, Storm Count 6, followed up by a Shield Sphere, Storm Count 7, which he immediately calls the weak on, Storm Count 8. Using 2 of his floating mana, he plays Helm of Awakening, Storm Count 9, followed by Cabal Ritual, Storm Count 10. He then casts and taps his Basalt Monolith, Storm Count 11. He then casts a Fractured Power Stone, Storm Count 12. He then casts a Thought Vessel, forgetting to increase Storm Count. He then plays Astral Cornucopia, Storm Count 13. He then plays a Codex Shredder, Storm Count 14. He then plays a Jeweled Amulet, Storm Count 15. He then casts Everflowing Chalice, Storm Count 16, followed by a Wayfarer's Bauble, Storm Count 17. And finally, he casts a Slaughter Pact, killing Yeva, Storm Count 18. He then pays 50 life to kill Ron, milling 50 cards in the process. He then pays his remaining 100 life to deal 50 to each opponent.